So it was a great pleasure. Now I've got to get my head around the next thing. So it was great pleasure that I introduced Bill Robichaud. I met him about 5 years ago, and he worked on an animal I had never, ever heard of, but it had this beautifully musical name, the Saola. And I often thought that if I had another daughter, I was going to call it Saola, just because it's such a beautiful name. And so Bill has been interested in, he's from the US, but he's been working in Laos and Vietnam for the last 20 years. He founded the Saola Working Group. It started with, I think, 6 people. It's now more than 30. And recently, he was honored by the Harry Messels Award for Conservation Leadership. He told me, I wanted to ask him to tell me something that none of us knew about him. And he said one of the most significant things was the first word that his daughter said was tiger. And that's pretty cool. So without further ado, I would like to welcome Bill, and I look forward to hearing more about this wonderful animal called the Saola.
Great talk. Wow, that was inspirational talk. Thank you, Colleen. What a great tee-up. Correction, my daughter's half Lao. Her first English word was tiger, which wasn't papa, and I was thrilled. Oh my gosh, this is like very cool. So yeah, thank you all for coming. It's really great to be here with you today. For the next 15 or 20 minutes, it's going to be my pleasure to take you on something of a journey as best we can do indoors. It's one of the most remarkable places on the planet, and it's also one of the animals that lives there is really one of the most remarkable wildlife stories of the past several decades. Unfortunately, this area is also at the center of the firestorm of one of the most compelling wildlife conservation crises in the world today. But we have hope, and I think we have a way out, and I'm going to talk to you about that as well. So the area we're going to visit are the Annamite Mountains along the border of Laos and Vietnam, shared by the two countries as their common border. And it's just a remarkable area. It's one of the largest blocks of dense forest left in this region of the world in Southeast Asia. Just extraordinary tall forests. When I walk through it, I realize it's like walking through a cathedral with green stained glass windows. And beautiful wild streams and rivers flowing down through these mountain forests to the Mekong River quite far away. It's also one of the most extraordinary areas in the world, truly, for biodiversity. These are just some of the primates that are found only in the Annamite Mountains and nowhere else in the world. And I think you'll agree with me that these are some of the most beautiful primates in the world. And again, you will not see them anywhere else. But what's really put the Annamite Mountains on the map as truly one of the world's global biodiversity hotspots is not just the animals we already knew were there, but all the new species that are being discovered in the Annamite Mountains today. These are just portraits of some of the new species that have been found by science in the Annamite Mountains just in the 1990s. We're talking about new species of rabbits, new species of deer that weigh 80 pounds, barking deer, muntjacs. The little fellow on the lower left doesn't look like much, but he's the only genus and species of a type of mammal that was last seen in the fossil record 5 million years ago until it turned up in the Annamite Mountains. Just an extraordinary place. And this isn't even counting all the reptiles, snakes, amphibians, insects, plants that have been found in this area. And the discoveries are continuing today. We think there's another new species of deer out there. We just haven't been able to describe it yet. But we have camera trap photographs of one we can't identify. But the most remarkable discovery was the first one that kind of brought the world's attention to the Annamite Mountains. And that came in 1992. In that year, a team of biologists from WWF and the Vietnamese Department of Forestry, they went to do just a general wildlife and biodiversity survey in a small nature reserve in Vietnam on the border of Laos called Vu Quang. And one day, one of the Vietnamese scientists on the team, he went to a nearby village to try to buy some fresh vegetables for the field camp. And he saw these extraordinary long horns on the walls of a house of one of the hunters in the village, unlike anything known from Southeast Asia. And very quickly, the team found multiple sets of these horns, and some of them were from kills that were quite fresh. There still was some flesh on the skull, and they eventually got a whole skin. And what they realized, they'd not only discovered a new species of mammal, they discovered an entirely new genus of mammal unknown in the world. And they called it, the scientific name is Pseudo-Oryx ngatenhensis. It's called Pseudo-Oryx because you can see it looks very similar to the beautiful oryxes of the Middle East and North Africa. It's actually not closely related to them at all. It's actually a very, very primitive member of the cattle family. Its closest living relatives are wild bison and wild water buffalo, even though it looks nothing like them. This is also a Saola. This is the biologist George Schaller, a mentor of mine doing work in Laos. In the Lao language, a la is the little spinning wheel that villagers use in the Annamite Mountains to spin silk and cotton thread. And sao in Lao means legs, like leg of a table or posts. So the name of this animal literally means old spinning wheel posts or spinning wheel arms. And the villagers say we call it that because they're about the same size and shape as the animal's horns. And you can see this is just an extraordinarily beautiful animal. This blew the minds of biologists. Nobody believed that an animal this big and this distinctive could go unknown by the outside world in the waning years of the 20th century. One of the other Lao nicknames for Saola is the polite animal, because they said this is a very gentle animal that always walks slowly and quietly through the forest and never bothers anybody. It's solitary. It lives in dense forest. It's at low density. It's a browser. You can see it eating leaves there. We don't know a lot more about it than that. We managed to get several camera trap photographs of it. That was a captive that I spent 3 weeks with that was captured in Laos. Unfortunately, only survived for about 3 weeks and died. There are no Saola in captivity anywhere in the world today. Our most recent camera trap photograph was in 2013 in Quang Nam province in Vietnam. And there it is. You can see, maybe make out the very long horns of the Saola. Even the villagers say this animal is not easy to camera trap. They said it's very calm and gentle, but it's also very, very wary. In fact, most of what we know about the Saola has come from talking to local villagers in its range. They're out in the forest every day. They're more likely to run into it. But even they say they don't see it very often. Even if it's in the forest around the village, they can go years without seeing one. And this is why we sometimes call this thing the Asian unicorn. On my worst days, I get up in the morning and think, this is like trying to conserve a unicorn. There is only one biologist who has ever seen this animal in the wild. My colleague, Dr. Chung, who's here today, has seen one chased by hunting dogs. This is by far the largest animal in the world. I'm sure there's never been seen by Western science in the wild. So we do know it is endemic to the Annamite Mountains. It's found in kind of multiple subpopulations along the Annamite chain. It's critically endangered in the IUCN Red List. It is now probably one of the 5 most endangered mammals in the entire world. Critically endangered is the last stop for extinction. It's very hard to find, so it's very hard to count. We know it's out there, but based on information from local people and the frequency with which we do camera trap it, if things are really good, there might be a few hundred left. If things are really bad, we might be down into the tens. This is a critical, urgent situation. In fact, if you look around the world, it's hard to find another species of animal that shares Saola's contribution or combination of 4 attributes. One, its biological distinctiveness. There's basically only one species of Saola in the world, and that's the Saola. There's a lot of unique evolution and genetic material in Saola DNA. Second is its degree of endangerment, which I mentioned. Third, its capacity to act as a flagship of one of the world's global biodiversity hotspots. And fourth is this gap in conservation attention. Saola isn't famous. I mean, how many of you had heard of a Saola even 5 years ago or 5 days ago or 5 hours ago maybe? Who knows? So I think if you take all this together, for those looking to make an incremental, significant contribution to conservation of the Earth's biodiversity and life, Saola is a very compelling focus for support. So why is it so threatened? Why are there only, handfuls of Saola left? That question has two answers. And the first may be related to this. This is a B-52 unloading its bomb load over the Ho Chi Minh Trail of Laos during the Vietnam War. This is a map of the bomb distribution data in Laos. Every red dot represents one bombing mission by the United States over Laos. This is a photograph taken recently over central Laos. This is not a photograph of a Lao golf course with sand traps. These are 40-year-old bomb craters. You can still see the impacts of the war in Laos today. Laos has the unhappy distinction of being the most bombed country per capita in the history of warfare. The US dropped 8 tons of bombs for every man, woman, and child in Laos on that country during the 8 years of the Vietnam War. In fact, this is a river boat in central Laos. I rent these boats all the time for doing Saola surveys. The US planes would fly over on bombing missions to Laos and Vietnam, flying out of Thailand often, and they carried extra fuel tanks, aluminum fuel tanks. And when these tanks were empty, they would just be released from the plane. So there's hundreds and thousands of these in the forests in Laos. And the very entrepreneurial Lao, they drag these out of the forest and they cut them up and weld them, and they make the most fantastic lightweight aircraft aluminum aerodynamic riverboats you've ever seen. Now, here again is the range map of Saola, and you look at the range map of the bombing, and you can see, unfortunately, the Saola's range nearly paralleled the Ho Chi Minh Trail. And you can also notice where the bombing is the worst is where there's gaps in the Saola range. I don't know if I have a laser pointer, but I think you can see that. We don't know for sure if the two are related. But I know, if you've ever seen videos of the bombing of the Ho Chi Minh Trail, this killed hundreds of thousands of tigers, elephants, Saola. Unfortunately, they were bombing one of the most biodiverse areas on the planet. People just didn't know it, not that anybody would have cared. It's quite possible that populations of the tigers and elephants and Saolas have never fully recovered from this and all the spraying of Agent Orange defoliants on the forest. But what's the problem today? Why can't Saola recover even today? And it's this issue. It's hunting, but it's not hunting by local people for food. It's commercial hunting to feed the luxury wildlife trade. These are just hundreds of some of the thousands of wire snares that professional hunters set in these forests. Sometimes snare lines that you'll find 300 or 400 snares in them, and they run for maybe half a mile or a mile all the way up and down a mountainside. This is being driven by the wildlife trade, and this gives you an idea of the extent of the trade. This is a turtle, again, a species not found outside of the Annamite Mountains. It shares the same forests with the Saola. If a Lao villager now finds one of these, and a Lao villager might make, a farmer up in the forest, he might make $1,000 a year from selling some extra rice or a water buffalo on occasion. He can sell one of these turtles to a Vietnamese trader for $20,000 US. It's believed to cure cancer in China. Well, this is the price that I knew a year ago from an informant. It might be $30,000 or $40,000 today. This has precipitated a catastrophe in Southeast Asia of wildlife poaching. And it's not just the animals that are targeted that get caught up in this. Snares don't have eyes. They don't know what foot they're catching. This is a beautiful male silver pheasant caught in a snare. The poachers only check the snare lines every couple of weeks. So anything that's not valuable, it hangs there for a couple of days till it dies of thirst and stress, and it rots and is just thrown away. This is one of the new species of barking deer that was just discovered. It's also now critically endangered on the IUCN Red List. This is large antlered muntjac. You can see caught by the foot in a snare, died there after stress several days. By the time we found it, even before the poachers did on their snare line, it's all rotted and of no use to anyone. And this is now such a crisis that biologists recognize there's two things. If you map high biodiversity areas in the world, it's Southeast Asia, Indonesia, the Annamite Mountains, places like that. If you then map over where the most critically endangered wildlife is, both of those areas coexist in Southeast Asia, driven by the wildlife trade. This is the world's flashpoint for the wildlife extinction crisis today and a high priority for investment in conservation. Here's the funny thing. That's the approximate value of a Saola. Nothing like a Saola was known to the ancient Chinese because the animal didn't occur in China. So ancient Chinese medicine, you read all the pharmacopoeia of ancient China, there's no use for a Saola. It's not in the demand for the trade. It's being swept up as bycatch in the general slaughter by the thousands of snares that are put in these forests. And while sad, this is also a great hope. It might be the key to unlock its conservation. Unlike tigers, rhinos, and elephants like you've been hearing the last few days, poachers are not racing conservationists to find the last Saolas. We now believe in the last probably 5 years, tigers have been extirpated from the Saolas range in the Annamite Mountains. In my first Expo in 2010, there were still tigers in the Annamites. Today, they're probably gone because poachers have been hunting them down one by one when they find a tiger track in the forest because they're so valuable. No one's doing that to Saola. And my hope is this is the key to saving this animal from extinction. In fact, about 2 years ago, the IUCN and the Zoological Society of London published a beautiful coffee table book. You can get the full PDF online. I can recommend it. It's a beautiful book. And they profiled the 100 most endangered species of plant or animal on Earth. And for better or worse, Saola made the list of 100 and is profiled in the book. And the premise of the book is if you look at this list of 100 species, most of them have no economic value to humans. They're quote unquote worthless to humans. They don't provide an ecosystem service. They don't provide a cure for cancer. They don't have some genetic material needed by domestic crops or livestock. So they pose the question, can we still be motivated to save these animals from extinction if they have no value to humans? And I think everybody in this room and the Wildlife Conservation Network, and this is something Jane Goodall has been providing leadership on for most of her life, is, the answer is yes. That just the wonder and the beauty and the right for these animals to be in the world is enough. And we no longer have to make wildlife conservation about what can these animals do for us, but we can simply make it about what can we finally do for them. So what do we need to do? First, we need to get organized. Colleagues of mine, we founded this network called the Saola Working Group in recognition of the urgency to save Saola from extinction. We finally got enough money together to meet face-to-face in 2009 for the first time. This is our last meeting. These are some of the most intelligent, impassioned, fantastic people it's ever been my privilege to work with. It's like a WCN Wildlife Heroes Network just focused on Saola. These are just fantastic people, and it's really my privilege to work with them. One of them is here today, my colleague Dr. Chung. He and I met in Pumat National Park in Vietnam in 1994. He knows a lot about conservation issues on the Vietnam side. He's a professor of zoology at one of the major universities in Vietnam. He's at our Expo table. Ask him anything you want about Saola conservation in Vietnam. And it's his first trip to the United States. So be very nice to him, please. Okay. Show him how great Americans are. Okay, or friendly. Yeah. And thank you to WCN for bringing him here. It's fantastic. So the Saola Working Group, we're working on across two timescales. One is immediately improve protection near term to keep Saola from going extinct over the next decade. Second is mentoring and relationship building with governments, villagers, and so forth to keep Saola secure for the long term. And I'm just going to briefly highlight some of the major things we're doing around each of these. For the short term, there's a lot of national parks and nature reserves in Laos and Vietnam, but you've heard the paper park syndrome. They don't have a lot of funding. They're not really well managed. The rangers, if they have them, aren't paid very well or motivated well. This wasn't working. So with the partners within the Saola Working Group, in 2011, we started implementing a new model of supporting the governments to hire extra rangers that Saola working group partners like WWF and WCS, they'll provide a better salary for them, they will train them, and they will supervise them. And they will recruit them. And they're recruiting them from the local villages because these people know the area, and the recruitment is very tough, so they get the best people. As Colleen said, they choose for personality, and they can train the rest. So this is in that was one of the Saola nature reserves that have been set up in Vietnam. And these are the village forest guards on patrol with their little Saola shoulder patch. And it's really difficult terrain. They do a very difficult, tough work. At my last Expo in 2012, we just started this program for a year, and we were focusing on 5 sites across Laos and Vietnam. And I was really happy to report that the teams had collected more than 10,000 snares in that first year. Well, I'm very happy to report that we just did the tally, and they've now collected more than 100,000 snares from these 5 sites. This is a huge milestone. You have to understand, this is probably 99,000 more snares that have been collected in these areas in the previous decade. So they've just done fantastic work. One thing we do with those snares, these are actually snares in Laos. These came from that pile of snares. These are handicrafts made out of the snare wire, dream catchers and beautiful keychains that we're selling at the Expo table. Every single dollar, the $10, goes back to support the ranger teams to pick up more snares. And we're partnered with the Henry Violet Zoo in Madison, Wisconsin. They make them for us with their volunteers, and every dollar we get back for Saola conservation. We need to wrap this up, and we're focusing on, there's 2 sites we have our eyes on in Laos. No biologist has been to these areas since the mid-1990s due to security issues and problems getting permission. We finally have persuaded the Lao government to let us go there, and we want to ramp up this snare collection in these 2 sites. And we need basically venture capital to get our teams in there and start working with the villagers and finding out what the priorities are. When you pick up 100,000 snares, you don't just benefit Saola. This is one of the endemic primates, the red-shanked Duke Langer. He's hanging on a snare, but he's fine. The patrol team, the forest guards team found him soon enough and released him. And this is in the Hue Saola Nature Reserve, and I'm very happy to report my Vietnamese colleague who's here, Thai Nguyen, who's doing fantastic work with pangolins. They're going to start reintroducing pangolins in Vietnam, and the one place they're going to do it that they feel confident is protected enough is the Saola Nature Reserve. That's where the first re-release of wild pangolins is going to happen, because it's the only place they feel confident. And this is all due to the umbrella of Saola. Fortunately, not all Saola or not all animals are found soon enough. About the time we're getting this program started, this Saola was found by villagers in a snare. It had been in there for 3 days, and it died shortly after this photo, after they brought it back to the village. So 100,000 snares is great, but what's going to set or determine Saola conservation is how many snares remain in the forest, not how many we've taken out. And our goal is to get that to 0 in these core sites that we're focusing on. Long-term is mentoring the young Lao and Vietnamese conservationists of the future. And these are just, I wish you could meet all these people. They're just the brightest, most dynamic young Lao conservationists you ever want to meet, all supported by WCN scholarships to do postgraduate work on wildlife conservation in Laos, which is almost as rare as Saola. So big handout to WCN for their scholarships. And you can buy one of these t-shirts that Ole is wearing in his field camp at the Expo table also. Not the same one, but we could arrange that. Another thing that's helped us for the long term in getting the word out on Saola is this character. This guy is Bill DeBise. He's a fantastic environmental writer. His first book was one of 3 shortlisted for the Pulitzer Prize. And he called us up several years ago and said, hey, I want to do a book on Saola. We said, yeah, okay, sure. And so he ran around Laos with me for a while. And this is him on our field trip coming back. He's writing the book, as you can see right there. Bill, would you stand up so people can recognize you without your sunglasses? And Little Brown published his book in March. It's out now. The paperback edition was just released this week, and he'll be signing copies. And both Bill and the publisher have cooperated that every dollar we make from the books we sell is going to Saola Conservation, that we sell at the Expo today is going to Saola Conservation. So, and you can, it's also available, he's done an audiobook format on Amazon.com, there's a Kindle edition. But if you buy one at the Expo table, we'll get the money, he won't. But, or buy both, you can get an audiobook, a Kindle, and a paper version. So how can you help? We need money. We're like kind of, Saola Conservation and the working group, we're still a little bit like a startup in the garage, you know, Silicon Valley startup. We're out of the garage, but not very far yet. So a little bit of money can go a long way. Donate time. Those fantastic 30 colleagues of mine, we want to keep them in the forests and the villages as much as possible. I don't want them working on websites and designing pamphlets and things like that. And the less I have to pay people to do that, the more money can go to Saola Conservation. So if anybody wants to be partner with the Saola working group and contribute to Saola Conservation from here in the United States doing some of these things, come talk to me at the Expo table. Treat yourself, buy a book. This fantastic Vietnamese wildlife artist, Mr. Huang, has donated an original Saola painting, like one of the only paintings of a Saola in the world. And Chung brought it over from Vietnam in this big box, and we're selling it by silent auction today at the Expo. And the artist also donated a limited edition, I think 25 copies of some signed and numbered prints, which are also for sale. So I just want to say that, you know, Saola has been on the planet for 8 million years. This is like an 8 million year old living, breathing work of art. But we're in a very urgent situation. This is a crisis. Yeah, I know you maybe get tired of that word, but we have to act very quickly. Can we save this from extinction? I'm not going to fool you. It's not going to be easy. But I just think we should also be very grateful to live in a time when there's still such wonder and mystery in the world, and we actually have the opportunity to do something. I'm just really grateful. This is a gift, not a challenge, to be alive at this time. And I also have hope. With a lot of creativity, we can do this. We can figure this out. But we're going to need your help. And thank you very much for coming today. I just want to say one more thing before everybody runs out. I got like 1 or 2 minutes for questions. I made like a video love letter from Laos for all of you, just like little clips I've been taking with my camera, you know, not professional. I put this together like a postcard. It just runs for a few minutes. I'm going to play it, and if you want to see what life is really like in the villages in the Annamite Mountains, feel free to stay and watch it. It just runs for a few minutes. If you need to run out, you know, go out also.
Hai hút có mất cả thì lượt. Hãy subscribe cho kênh Ghiền Mì Gõ để không bỏ lỡ những video hấp dẫn. เป็นการบทบาทช่วยแล้วตาสนองเลยเนาะเฮกาโยมตาสร้างบทบาทที่กองของกุยาอะไรเคยจำเคยเฟียเคยตาสมองกับมอบเพียงเขียนอ่านก็มีบุคคำลองทั้งกี่เลยยก
ป้าสมมติทำไมเราพูดแล้วจ้ะ
มาจะเด้ออีกเด้อดูเด้อช่วยบ้านนี่ได้เด้อทางใต้เด้อความรู้ใต้ทางใต้พอทำความมาชาวนา
ใช่ใครเอาหมากกันแล้วเนาะ
น้ำแพทย์ชอบแพทย์เลยจ้ะ
เจ้าแหวก
วันนี้เจอมาเอ็ดเลยค่ะมันทำเป็นเรื่อง
เจ็ดอื่นก็เป็น
คิดหนัก
คิดว่า
บ่ทุกหลายบ่มีก็เจ้าเฮือนอยู่ทานเลยยากเนาะโอ้ยเฮือนน่ะเป็นแบบนี้ล่ะ
มาไปสิมา